Good evening to SCPA and good evening to all of our viewers at home. My name is Adrian Antonio.
And I'm Mary Lear, and we're here to welcome you back to another episode of The Surface.
If you haven't seen any of our previous episodes, we highly recommend that you watch them on sdscpamainstage.com, although you should probably finish watching this one first. To find previous episodes of The Surface, start by making your way to the Student Series page on sdscpamainstage.com and clicking on The Surface Archives. And while you're there, make sure to check out the other pages to learn about future events at SCPA.
Yes, the SDSCPA Mainstage website is a great place to learn about what's happening at school, so we strongly encourage that you all look whenever you can. Without further ado, Adrian, what's going on above the surface?
We got quite a few announcements today, Mary. This Wednesday, there'll be a juniors versus senior class meeting where the Spirit Committee will release more information pertaining to Juniors versus Seniors Week. Make sure to be there. This Saturday, the sophomore class will be hosting a movie night bonding experience where the class of 23 will be streaming Disney Channel classic Radio Rebel. Brush your hair back and make sure to attend by checking out the Instagram at SDSCPA23. And for our middle schoolers this Friday, there will be a bonding night with middle school ASB from 4 to 6 p.m. Get to know your fellow classmates while you can. Seniors, next Monday, there will be a class meeting at 4 p.m. regarding the rest of our senior year. But make sure to catch the next episode of The Surface right after at 5. Want to be more involved in the SCPA community? Here's your chance. This week is the last week to finish and submit your ASB applications, so make sure to get those in. ASB is a wonderful opportunity that I have had the pleasure to partake in, and I highly encourage anyone else who has the slight inclination to join to apply. SDSCPA Mainstage Salon Series host writer and journalist John Talton this Thursday at 6 p.m. RSVP on the SDSCPA Mainstage Hub Salon Series page to receive the link in your inbox on the day of the event. And Mary, that's what's been going on above the surface. Back to you.
Wow, that is a lot of really interesting stuff coming up, Sam. That's crazy. You know, I really always loved that when we were on campus, we got to see students having fun, really just getting to be themselves. Like, I miss that so much.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Mary. SCPA really was a fun place because it was just such a fun place where you didn't have to worry about being yourself because there's always someone who would be there to help you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Which is why this week we're going to be talking about the No Place for Hate Committee and what they do to address hate in the SCPA community at the source.
But before we do that, I think it's time to move on to reading some student responses from the weekly survey and find out what's going on below the surface. Each week, we send out a survey to students to get their opinions on SCPA culture. This week, our survey asked about how we can improve kindness on our campus. Our first question asked if the school should be more involved in social justice, and 100% of our responses said yes. One student says, of course, every school should. And another explains that it makes sense seeing that we're a school with so much diversity. Yeah, we are one of the most diverse schools in California, meaning that we're one of the most diverse schools in America. We have such a wide array of students from all different backgrounds. So if we're not fighting for all students in any fight for social justice, then we're not doing our job as a school. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think that it's really important to uplift all voices in SCPA, which covers a lot of different types of voices. Our next question was focused on how students can safely become more involved with social justice efforts. One student says that social media is the safest way to raise awareness about issues, while another suggests that school-sanctioned protests could allow students to protest safely.
Yeah, finally, we kept it simple. How can we eliminate hate at SCPA? One student says, spreading truth and awareness is great. It's also great to start acting with love in our communities on a personal level. I think that spreading love is a great way to start reducing hate. You know, it's basically the antithesis, the opposite of hate. Another response said, sometimes we should take education into our own hands. Do everything you can understand the perspective of others. That's definitely something a lot of us were challenged to do last year. That's just something that we should have been doing for a while now, just challenging your narrative by looking at other stories.
Absolutely. You know, it's so great to hear what the students of SCPA have to say. So make sure to stick around till the end of the episode to find out how you can answer our next survey and have your responses be featured on the surface.
Okay, I think it's starting to look like it's time to bring on this week's guest, or should I say guests? We have a couple. We're going to be talking with some members of the No Place for Hate Committee today to find out a little more of what they do behind the scenes for SCPA and the other schools in our community.
Yes, so without further ado, we welcome the No Place for Hate Committee.
Hi.
Hi, welcome everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so
Welcome
much
to
for
the
having us.
Surface, everyone. Mary and I are so glad to have you on the show. So for starters, just introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Bricia Lapinga. I'm 13 and I'm in 7th grade.
Hi, my name is Cesar Jose Carol Dominguez. I am 14 years old and I'm in 9th grade.
Hi, I'm Anastasia Burnham, aka Senora Bay. I am a proud teacher at SCPA. I teach yoga and mindfulness and Spanish, and also the No Place for Hate coordinator.
Great. So for those of us who don't really understand what the No Place for Hate Committee is, it's our understanding that you're helping to obviously eliminate hate at SCPA. So what do you guys work on as a team normally to facilitate a friendly environment at SCPA?
Yeah.
Have my committee. Yep.
So something we really work on is first of all, we're a committee made up of staff and students, and we're committed to making sure that the SDSCPA community stays as inclusive and welcoming environment as it already is. And so we resolve issues that emerge through different types of actions, right? There are certain situations that we as a committee can help you resolve, but then for larger issues, we act as a pipeline to the administration so that we can help you find the resources you need to resolve the situation. And if you wish to remain anonymous, we can speak your thoughts for you.
Great, that's wonderful. I think that the option to be anonymous is really helpful when it comes to bullying and hatred. I think that that's really great. I don't know if you two want to expand on that a little bit.
I just think that what Zay pointed out is there's many different, it's a multifaceted committee. Absolutely, we are first and foremost a support to students. It's really a student-led climate improvement program. As we know, SCPA is already doing great in so many areas, but to be the school that we want to be the community we want to be, we're always looking. So what the No Place for Hate Committee's purpose is, other than just being there for students who need, is also to kind of take a look at our climate, at the culture at SCPA, at where we want to improve, and hone in on those areas and work there in order to, which I love, spread the love, and coincidentally stop hate or bullying or bias.
That's great. That's wonderful. I know that last week we were talking about, I totally agree with you. I think that SCPA really does a great job at reducing bullying and hatred. I've always felt really safe and comfortable at SCPA, but I know that last week we were talking a little bit about how hate can present itself in sort of smaller ways and build up. Zay, do you maybe want to expand on what we were talking about in that regard last week?
Yeah, of course. So thank you, Mary. So one thing we've done is we act as a research team, really, in these stages at this time. So one thing we do is we've attended ADL training so that we can have a deeper understanding of hate, because, right, it's vital that we can diagnose certain problems. It's like at the roots, and pull them out at the roots. Hate is a cancer, and we're your doctors. Our primary goal is to research where hate is emerging and how, so that we can pull it up and eliminate it, because it starts at jokes and eventually it comes to physical and mental abuse.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much. Every week we give a survey out to all the students, and students can fill out, and we ask a bunch of different questions about this week's topic. So this week we asked how students at SCPA can be more accommodating to marginalized communities. Our responses suggested that SCPA already does a better job than most schools, and one student says, "I think SCPA does a good job already, but to improve, we must re-examine suspension rates and promote rehabilitation for students in trouble rather than punishing them." We were curious about what kind of long-term adjustments you plan on implementing to create a more equitable place for students in the future.
I think that being an educator at SCPA, but also I am a facilitator for Anti-Defamation League for ADL to do these trainings at different schools. And one thing that I feel really grateful about is the buy-in from our administration and staff. Really, the whole communities come together in support of No Place for Hate. And that message is loud and clear that we understand that bias, it starts within ourselves, but it is a systematic thing as well. And therefore, absolutely open to, if that is something that is being spoken to us, that is being communicated, that we need to work on, SCPA is completely committed on all levels to doing that. So that certainly could be in the future, especially if that's the feedback we're getting. So,
Yeah, thank you. That's a great response. We'd like to hear from everyone on this next question, if we could. What is something you like the most about being on the committee? Do you feel that you've learned anything that will be helpful in life from your experience on this committee? We could start off with Priscilla.
Well, something I think that I've learned, something that I like most about being on the committee is that we're all equal, meaning like us students don't have to raise our hand to speak, but more in the sense that we can all explain an idea or a topic to the group when we're discussing something. And I think that's really important, so we all feel like we're being a part of it. And something that I think I've learned that I will need, that will help me in the future, is to never judge a book by its cover. And of course, I already knew this, but when we did the trainings with the ADL, it reminded me that, people seem super happy and excited all the time to you, but you have no idea what a person's going through at home or just in their daily lives. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Great. Maybe Zay, if you want to go next.
Of course, yeah. So something I've really enjoyed about being on the committee is just that I can help the student body resolve issues. I've been on the student councils at all of my other schools, and I know how important it is to be able to have this kind of representation that we're offering, especially when we're able to work with ASB and the administration to work as a more neutral voice. And I think something that I've gained that's very meaningful, that I think, that I can help other people with, is this idea of helping other people, but although, working as our own independent unit, right? Because although resources like ASB and the administration are very helpful and often very cooperative, there are certain times when we do need to raise issues, and maybe they have a very different view than us because they're not under the same circumstances. And so I think it's important to have this different lens, if you will, right? A different thought process, so that we can approach it from our standpoint, and other people can approach the same situation from different standpoints. And we can speak about these things and create a more equitable distribution.
Great, wonderful. And Ms. Burnham, if you want to answer last.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I have learned through the process of training with ADL and then being the No Place for Hate coordinator, we say anti-bias trainings, anti-bias work. And that language puts it out there that bias is all bad. And the truth of the matter is that the foundational belief that I believe is important for everybody in a community to have is that bias is just a human thing. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. If you are alive, you have bias. You've been downloaded ideas and beliefs and biases since you were born. And so the recognition and the self-awareness, first of all, that we are all beings with different biases, and we bring those, and just being aware of sometimes they manifest themselves in ways that are hurtful. And being aware that our diversity at SCPA is a strength. And I think that if there's anything that I could say, if there's any big major takeaway for myself, is just recognizing that if you notice a bias in yourself, that's good. If we can all walk around and be aware of that, we have taken a huge first step in challenging and confronting the bias.
And Miss, if I may, just cut in here. Ms. Burnham, I would really like to thank you for these platforms, and I hope I can just discuss this with you. But well, I agree with you. I think that biases we're not necessarily born with. Biases are imposed onto us by our society, and that is why it is so important that we are able to come in as a committee and resolve these, because again, it starts as jokes, it starts as comments, and then it escalates. But we are not, as humans, born with biases. They're things that have been deep rooted systemically because of difference, and the fact that we as humans, we don't usually celebrate difference because we weren't taught to celebrate difference. So while I agree with you that bias is a very natural human thing, I don't necessarily agree with you that we're all born with biases, because we simply aren't. Biases are a thing that are superimposed onto us by our society.
Yeah, I agree with you, and you said it very well. And that's exactly what I meant. But I appreciate that you rephrased it in a way that was articulated well, that we are born and we are downloaded these ideas from the system, from the community, from our parents, from social media, and all of these things. So at this point, functioning as the human beings at SCPA that we are, it's an assumption, it's a foundational belief that ADL has, that all human beings have bias, and that's the starting place. But thanks. Well said, Zay.
Speaking of social media, like you just mentioned, we understand that the No Place for Hate Committee is kind of constricted in their actions right now since we're not on campus. So what exactly has the No Place for Hate Committee been doing on an online setting? Like, could you tell us how you meet? Could you tell us like who's available to meet, what times and stuff like that?
Well, I don't know, Ms. Burnham, you might want to take this one.
Sure, I'm happy to. So we've been meeting, we've been Zooming like everybody. Our goal was to form a committee this year, talk about and assess kind of what we need, life right now, online learning right now. We sent out, hopefully most people have seen, a pledge that we wanted all of SCPA to commit to being a school, an anti-bias, a school that focuses on social justice. We see that we've got the buy-in there from that pledge, but also, just from the show, we can see that people agree. And then we've been working on projects. So to be accredited with the No Place for Hate official title, you must complete 3 school-wide, best as possible, projects that revolve around pro-love, anti-bias, anti-bullying, creating that culture where everyone feels respected, safe, loved, and celebrated. So we are working on implementing those projects by the end of the school year, and really hoping to just get exposure for our committee, so that when we're back on campus, we really have a strong foundation to be even more of a presence.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, yeah, going off of what Ms. Burnham said, right now, what we're doing is we're just functioning more as an analytical unit. We're assessing the damage that has been done, and we are moving forward to try and figure out how we can resolve that, because it is, as you know, extremely hard to do the kinds of school-wide project implementation that we would need to do, and that we could do if we were on campus. So I would say at this point, from my standpoint, and I think Ms. Barnum agrees with this, we're really more of an analytical unit.
I love that take. Yeah. One thing that I've noticed in my time at SCPA is that like a lot of students take anti-bullying and stuff into their own hands, which I completely adore. Like, it starts with you. and I do not want to inflate my ego, but if I could share an anecdote from my sophomore year, I remember, Mary, you might remember this too. Like, there were just a bunch of these Instagram accounts that were created, like SCPA Confessions and SCPA Anonymous, and you basically just send in like a confession to their DM, and it could be like the wildest thing. Like, I could send in, "Did you know that Mary Lear eats raw chicken?" And they would post it, and everyone would see it. So what I did is the best way I know how to spread love is by making people laugh. So I made a meme account for SCPA, and that's just one thing that I feel like I've tried to accomplish. And you could think it's funny. I don't really care if you do. I'm just trying my best to do my part. And I see some people in the audience right now that have done their own part. I remember Jemima Palayo and Jessica Milla. I've seen your Instagram stories. I've seen how you've taken things into your own hands when it comes to the issues that face us as students. So yeah, keep doing the great work. And Mary?
Yeah, you're talking about how you're functioning as more of like a research base right now because we're all online. Do you think that hate itself has changed as we've moved online?
Yes, and I'm so glad that you asked this question, Mary, because I think especially our generation, having grown up around things like Facebook and computers, so much of what would have been in-person bullying has transitioned into cyberbullying, and there's a common misconception that it is less harmful, but it is not less harmful. In fact, it can be more harmful because cyberbullying, it can really get to you psychologically, even as opposed to the physical bullying, and that can drive students to extreme measures against themselves. And so I think it's very important that we as a school and as a community address both bullying in the real and bullying in sort of physical cyber world matrix that we're all confined to at the moment. And I think quarantine has really exacerbated that because as we're seeing, depression rates among teens are going up, suicide rates among teens are going up. And I really think a good portion of this is due to so much of this bullying being concentrated through things like social media. So I think it's very important that students not only promote love on social media, but also watch what they say, because again, it starts as jokes and then it can become much more harmful over a period. I think if students want to know how they can talk to us, we do have a social media account on Instagram. It's at SDSCPA, no place for hate, no spaces, no capitals. And I think if you want to reach out to be a part of SDSCPA, no place for hate, you're welcome to do that. We can send you the meeting times. If you want to talk to us, I know that sometimes it can just get lonely. If you want to talk to us, we're here. And if you want to speak to us about a more serious issue, we're also here. I know students have reported things, have reported incidents of cyberbullying to us. And I think it's very important that we have this resource because, again, especially being anonymous right now is so important because of the backlash that often occurs in these kinds of situations, and especially when we're all confined to our houses. So yeah, if you want to speak to us or to figure out how to join, figure out how to support your own community and join us, or even if you want to bring a more serious issue to the table that you think we need to address, at SDSCPA, no place for hate is the place to be, place to go.
Great. I think that's really, really well said. Now, Ms. Burnham, I heard you earlier talking about how you have different projects. Are there specific projects that you already have kind of in the works or planned ahead that you want to talk about here on the surface?
Yes, I do. So we already sent out an article it's called "My Bully Became a Buddhist," and it's about a local man named Jeff Zlotnick and kind of his experience, why he acted as a bully. It's important that we say acted as a bully versus being a bully because that's not his identity. It was his behavior and what was inside of him on an inner level that made him feel like he needed to do that, and then how his life transformed and how he made amends. So I think what was the purpose of that was just that we kind of really consider, why does bullying happen on a personal level, and really want our school to take a look at the different roles that we play in bullying. Like, I love what Adrian said, where he actually took action instead of being a bystander and seeing the bullying happen and not doing anything. He took an action, and in his way, the positive intention behind it was to be a confronter of it, to say it's not okay, or to flip it into something else, something more positive. So I think it's really important, and our goal in these first two projects, both the reading the article and then having Jeff actually come on this next show, is to really consider, why does bullying happen, and kind of at the root, why does it happen, and the different roles that we can play, either as a confronter, as a bystander, and really as an ally in these situations. So that's sort of our goal for the first two projects. And then our final project, which is going to be going down before the end of the school year, is again going to be reaching out to the students of SCPA and their wisdom and their feelings, so that we know what we want to tackle coming up next year. What are those things that we need to improve on? What are the gaps that we need to focus on? And then we'll hit the ground running with that. So that's kind of our plan for the three projects this year.
Great. Thank you so much. I know that you mentioned like sending stuff out to the students and getting their feedback. So if you're watching the show, make sure that if you're doing our surveys, you can do their surveys as well. We want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. If we can get the Instagram handle up once more, if there's anything last that you want to plug or talk about, but we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really great to learn so much more about you all and the amazing work that you're doing. We can't wait to see your future projects, and we'll definitely keep everyone updated on the surface with the happenings of that.
Thank you.
So thank
Thank
you.
you so
If
much.
anybody wants to join, we're here.
Yes, email us. We do have an email as well. SDSCPA, no place for hate @gmail.com. No caps, no spaces. If you want to shoot us a message about joining or report something, just talk to us. Remember, you are anonymous, and we know that it's uncomfortable to speak to the administration sometimes, so we're a middleman. So yeah, that's our email, and I'm sorry, I think I'm overextending our time here, but
Thank
yes.
you.
Thank you so much for
much.
having us.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
We see Dr. Gordon in the chat. Nice to see you here. Speaking of students getting to be themselves from our earlier conversation, I think our student spotlight section is the perfect place to show off SCPA's unique community. This week we'll be featuring a junior dance major, Celeste Montoya, and her dance piece. Great friend of mine. I'm excited to share this video with you all. Ms. Gutierrez, roll it.
Wow, that is just incredible.
I had a conversation with Celeste about the meaning behind the choreography and the video, and really it's a perfect example of what our theme about this episode is. Like, it's about self-doubt, and, I don't think we can effectively love others when we aren't loving ourselves correctly. So, that just promotes the idea of self-care and self-love, and I am just so thankful for Celeste for submitting that. It was an opportunity to just be able to witness such talent at the school. And anyone else watching in the audience, you can be featured on The Surface as well in our student spotlight by going to our card in our Instagram bio and following the directions to submit in a Google form.
Yes, you can also go to the SDSCPA Mainstage website, sdscpamainstage.com, head over to the Student Series page, and there you'll also be able to find our Student Spotlight submission. You will also be able to find our old episodes and our weekly survey.
Speaking of weekly survey, this week's episode is actually one of 2 parts. Next week, we'll be having a conversation with, surprise, Jeff Slotnick, the one we just talked about in our interview, about his transformative journey with bullying and how he's used meditation to control his emotions.
Yes, thank you so much for watching today's episode, everyone. We're so excited to see you next week on
The Surface.